Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hidden Existence. I know it has been a minute since I've been here live, probably a few months now, but I'm here, I'm back. I can only apologise for my absence. I have missed you all, but I'm back now. So, and I'm back with a great guest tonight. I've got Scott, Sister Scott. I think you had an extra S on your name. Scott, coming from Indiana, and you've had some interesting Sasquatch experiences, and ending with a rock. You're stuck with a rock. We'll get into the details of that and what you might do with it, or what you might have to do with it. But let's start at the beginning. For you, you didn't know about Sasquatch, or you didn't really have it on your horizon.
No, basically, I saw a show with Leonard Nimoy when I was about 8 or 9 years old. Um, it was called In Search of, and that's where I first saw a Sasquatch, the Gimlin Patterson Sasquatch, Patty. Um, and, I saw videos of it walking in the famous turn and the arm swinging back. I didn't know it was a female at the time. I didn't really key in on that. I was just busy looking at the whole thing. You know what I mean? I didn't really notice the breast part of it. And then later on, I was in school in the seventh grade or so, and we were in reading class and we could order books, and it would take weeks for them to come in. And I ordered a book on Sasquatch, the Loch Ness monster, UFOs. So I got that book. I saw it once again, but for the most part, my mom always told me that monsters didn't exist, and it was all in the movies, and there's no such thing as a monster. And I saw the Patty film, and I thought to myself, well, that's out in the Pacific Northwest. That's out in the California area. I live in Ohio. I'm just a kid. I don't camp, so I'm never going to run into anything like that. Way down the line, we come to 2000, and I'm in my 30s, and I've been hunting for a long time, bow hunting. Never ran across anything or seen anything crazy. I did, there was times I heard things in the woods and didn't see anything, but you know, heard something that sounded, large at times, but I never put two and two together. It was never on my mind. So I was living in Michigan. I was married. I had children. I hunted, was hunting a new property, made some great friends in the town of Mayville, Michigan. And that was about an hour and, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes from where I lived. So, if you're not a hunter, um, if you want to be really good at it and you want to harvest deer, you got to get up really, really early. You got to get in the woods in the dark because most, decent sized deer or big bucks, if you're hunting big bucks, move just about daybreak, and they usually move through back to their bedding area from the fields or vice versa. So, you would have to get in there kind of early. So I would have to get up, because I had an hour and 40-minute drive over to this property. So I would have to get up early, about 3 o'clock in the morning to drive over there. So I got all my stuff together as the crow flies. Got over there, got over to the property, got out of my car, going to get my gear and everything so I could head in the woods. And I just noticed that it was really, like, really quiet. I mean, I've been out in the woods when it's been quiet, no wind, but this was like eerie quiet. Like you could hear a pin drop and hear it hit the ground. It was um, just, I don't know. It's just all I can explain is it was just kind of creepy. And I thought that was weird. I didn't hear any tree frogs or anything like that in the woods. So I went around, got all my gear out, got everything, on and ready to go, got my backpack on, and I started down the 2 track. And I got down around the 2 track. I had to go down about 50 feet or so, 55 feet from the landowner's driveway down into the front part of the woods to go in the woods. And this woods was pretty big. It went on for several miles. I hunted about 200 acres of it. but there was probably, I don't know how many hundreds of acres were back in there. I was only allowed to be on the 200 acres I was on. So I never went beyond that point, but I knew all of the 200 acres that I was hunting on. I'd been all over the property, scouting it. That's what you do. You know, you go into a new property and you scout for deer signs. So I started down in there. And the other thing is, you know, this was in November, getting close to the mating cycle of deer. So I was getting close to the rut. And I got down there and there was no moon. There was no moon cycle. So the moon cycle was out. So, you know, if there's a full moon in the sky, you can kind of see in the woods a little bit. But when there's no moon, you can't see the hand in front of your face when you get in there. It's so dark. It's just pitch black. You can't see anything. Mm-hmm. So I went in on the 2-track. I was going east, and then the 2-track turned to the right. And then I was walking down the 2-track. I would have been going south. And then the 2-track made a bend again to the left and was going east. So I turned and started down the 2-track, and there was a game trail that butted into the 2-track. It dumped into the 2-track is where it ended. And I would turn right, and I would walk about 200 or so yards down that game trail, up over a ridge to where my tree stand was. And I hunted just on the edge of a swamp. And then I had, you know, if you can picture a big bowl, and you're sitting in the center of it about 21 feet up, and you had a high 25-foot ridge line all around you. And then it came down and broke down past me to where there was maybe a 5 or 6 foot ridge you had to go over to get in and out of it. So I turned right and started down that game trail. And I got, I don't know, 16, 17 steps down it. And I stepped on a twig. And I always put a flashlight on my leg, and I always turn it on. I pop it on. And when I walk, I always turn it right or left so I can kind of see the floor, so I don't trip over, you know, a fallen tree or whatever. Because I've done that before and landed on my face, and it you know, it doesn't feel good when you do that. So I got down and I stepped on that twig, and it made a crack noise. And when I did that, something to the right of me about, I don't know, 45, 50 yards away, got up, and I don't know how to really describe the sound other than it was like just sweeping on the ground for something to get up that was big, but yet it was really fast. So it was a noise, boom, and then it was silent. Okay. So it was a lot of noise in the leaves, moving leaves to get up. So something was laying on the ground. It got up, then nothing. Then all of a sudden I hear something taking 5 or 6 steps around, circling around in behind me, walking like you and me, like bipedal. It wasn't a deer. I busted deer up, you know, early in the morning in the dark out of their bedding areas. I didn't have any bedding areas around there. They were far, far back in the swamp. So I was trying to get my bearings of what the heck is this, because it started to walk in and behind me and take 5 or 6 steps. The other thing is, when I took my last step and I stepped on the branch on the ground and it made a noise and got up, I bent over. So I was actually physically bent over, and I was froze like that because I didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to make any fast movements. So I'm like, as I'm hearing this thing walk and I'm bent over and I'm frozen, and my brain's telling me, you know, Scott, straighten up, just straighten up. And I'm hearing it finish its last steps, and then it just goes quiet. And I know whatever it is behind me, you know, 55, 60 yards behind me. And it's on the 2-track now where I first came in down the trail, and it's right behind me, and it's in the dark, and I can't see nothing. I have this flashlight on my leg, but I don't know if I should pop the flashlight up and look, or if I should just, you know, the main thing is I was just standing there and I couldn't move. My brain's telling me to move, and my body will not move. So finally I stood up, I moved up from the bent over position, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pop this flashlight up. I'm going to look over to the right of me and see if I can see anything. So I did that. I popped and I turned like this and I moved the flashlight around. I didn't see anything. And I immediately brought the flashlight back to my leg and I thought, oh, now you're really stupid because whatever's behind you knows exactly where you are. You don't, outside of you, you've heard it walk behind you. You don't really know where it is. And it's not making any movements. It's not making any noise. And it tried to walk very stealthily, like it's got a brain and it's trying to be very quiet. So I'm standing there and I still don't hear anything and there's nothing moving. And I'm starting to get creeped out because I'm sitting in the dark. I can't see my hand in front of my face. I got my bow in one hand and this flashlight in the other. And I'm like, is this thing, whatever it is, going to come down the trail at me? I mean, am I going to disappear this morning? Is this it? I mean, I really started to get really beyond scared. And I'm talking about terrorized, freaking out. The hair started to, stand up on my neck. And I'm like,
you're an experienced hunter.
right.
We've talked before, like you went through everything. You've pretty much heard and seen it all, haven't you?
Yes. Yes.
And this is, I guess, what got you is because you just can't work this one out.
Well, I couldn't figure out what it was because I don't have any elk in there. I don't have grizzly bears. I wasn't up in the UP of Michigan, so I didn't even have any bears in there. I didn't have any moose. Nothing big in there, and then nothing that's walking bipedal like me. I mean, I'm it. I'm the biggest predator in there outside of 160, maybe 180-pound deer, but they're on four legs and I know what they sound like. I know what everything sounds like. Coyotes, raccoons, I've had them all come in, yelp, whatever. I mean, I've heard everything. I'd been hunting for quite a long time by then, so I had a lot of experiences with a lot of different animals. So I'm trying to wrap my mind around what just got up, made all that noise, and then walked so gently and quietly behind me, although I could hear it popping and cracking limbs as it's walking, but is walking like me. And, deer don't act like that. Coyotes don't act like that. When you bust them up, they're running down through the woods. They're going, and then they may stop, but then they're going to blow snort or they're going to keep running. They don't walk in behind you and stand there and don't move
around. Yeah,
they don't act like that. They're animals. When they know you're a predator, it's over. So this thing was standing behind me and not making any noise. And the thing was creeping me out is it wasn't making any noise. It wasn't like moving on or running or anything. It just stood behind me. So I'm starting to get creeped out. Like I have goosebumps right now telling you this because every time I tell this, it's like I'm right back there again. So I decided, okay, I want to get to my stand and I'm going to start walking. So I'm like, the safest thing is to walk like I normally do when I go in the woods, take 4 or 5 steps and stop. Don't let this thing know I'm human or anything. I'm just going to walk 4 steps. So I walk 4 steps. As I start to walk, it starts to walk. Now it's going east of me, out down the 2-track, because that 2-track went for probably a mile or 2 back in there. You could drive a four-wheeler back there for miles. So it's heading east of me, and I would take 4 steps and stop, and it would take a 5th step because it didn't know I was going to stop. I'm sure it thought I'm going to walk when he walks, and maybe he's just going to keep walking, whatever. So I would take 4 steps, it would take 5, and then I would stop and it would stop. And then nothing. No sound, no nothing. And I, it seemed like I was standing there for 5 minutes. It probably was a minute, but it seemed like it was a long time. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a few more steps. So I would take 5 steps, stop, and it would take 6. It would start walking, and I would stop, and it would take an extra step, and I would hear it. I would hear it pop on a limb or whatever on the ground. So I did that 2 more times, and it was the same thing. Now it's going out east of me. So I still don't know where it is position-wise because it's not making any noise. So I really got creeped out. The hair was up on the back of my neck. And I'm like, you know what? I got, 200 yards to go to get to my stand, and I'm going to hoof it. I'm just going to, I'm going to run to my stand because I'm freaked out.
Mhm.
So I remember pulling my flashlight up, and I took off running. And when I took off running, it took off running. And when I heard how big it was, and the footfall, and the thump, I kept hearing thump, 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 thump in about 5 or 6 second intervals. I was hearing the footfall, and it starts paralleling me as as I'm running down this trail to this ridge. It's now running out about 60 yards to the left of me, and I'm hearing this, and it sounded like a damn big freight train going through there. I mean, it's busting limbs and everything. And then I'm hearing the thumping part, and I'm like, I'm really freaking out now. So by the time I run, and I ran all the way, like I didn't run and walk and run and walk. I ran at a pretty good clip to get to the bowl area of where my stand, because I knew my stand was about 10 yards on the inside over that ridge. I got up over that ridge, got to my stand, dropped my flashlight a couple times because I was shaking, picked that up, got my bow hooked on, climbed up that tree as fast as I could, pulled my bow up, hooked it in, hooked my safety harness on, and then I just sat down because all the adrenaline was in my body, and I was shaking so bad I was afraid I was going to fall out of the tree.
Mhm.
And then this thing starts to walk out in front of me. It goes from a run to a walk, but it's in water, and it's swishing in the water. Like I can hear the water. I don't hear splashes. I hear water swishing as it's stepping. And I'm like, what in the heck is this? Like, nobody walks like that. You know what I mean? I don't walk like that when I'm walking in water. You know what I mean? I'm splashing every time I walk in water. Even if you try and walk quietly in water, you still splash because you're bringing your foot up and down. This was like this. It was like swooshing. And
Mhm.
I'm like, now I'm set down, and I got my hands in front of my face like this. And I'm like, am I hearing what I'm hearing? This thing is now walking out in front of me, and now it's walking like southeast of me, and I can hear it plain as day because it's dead quiet. You don't hear nothing, but this thing moving, and it's moving at a good clip. Like it's not running, but it's like that. You know what I mean? And I hear it stop at about, I don't know, maybe 75 yards away from me, maybe, because I can't see where it is. I can only have a general direction of where it last stopped. And then I hear these tree limbs being broken off this tree. The crack and the pop and crack, pop and twisting. I can hear cracking and twisting and pop and breaking one after another. And I'm like, you got to have a thumb to do that. You got to have a hand. There's nothing in there in that entire woods that has a hand. You know what I mean? Like us with a thumb. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You got hooves on deers. You got raccoons that have tiny little, paws or whatever, or coyotes or whatever. But nothing has a thumb that you can physically grab a branch and tear it right off and break it in half. And the other thing is, when I scouted this property, I found tree breaks. I didn't know what they really were at the time because, like I said, Bigfoot wasn't on my mind. I wasn't thinking about it when this was all going on. I wasn't thinking, well, that's a Bigfoot. I still was like, what the heck is it? And I found all these tree breaks and everything. And the crazy thing of it is, I'd find a tree break, and then about 50 yards, I'd find another one. And then I'd go about 70 more yards, I'd find another one, and so on. And they were in a row. And I'm like, what breaks a tree like this in a row? Wind doesn't do that. I have trees all over my backyard. And when the wind really blows hard, the branches that can't handle it, they break off and fall to the ground. They don't break and hang
Yeah.
at 7.5 feet up or 6.5 feet up. I even once tried to do this. I tried to pull on a sapling about that big around, And I pulled it over and I tried to physically break it towards the top. And it was a struggle. Like and I have pretty strong upper body. I'm in my 50s, but I used to work out and lift weights, and I tried to do that, and I had a heck of a time. I ended up laughing myself silly because I couldn't do it, but I would find these tree breaks. So when this thing's breaking these limbs off this tree, I'm like, well, what is this? If this thing sounds so big and so powerful, and I don't have anything in here. If I was out in Montana or out in Oregon where there's grizzlies or moose or anything that's huge like that, okay, well, that's probably a moose, or not so much the breaking the limbs off, but the running or whatever. But you can still, four-legged animals gallop when they run. They don't run like us. We have two legs, so the characteristics totally different. But I would, at least in the frame of my mind, I could go, well, it's that. With this,
you've no idea.
No, I have no idea what this is. So I usually get down around about 10 o'clock. Usually most of the game moves through. If I don't want to harvest something or it's too small, I just get down. Well, I was out there till 11:30, quarter till 12 before I got down out of that tree, because I was so shaken up and freaked out that I couldn't get myself to climb down, because I didn't know if it was still around. I didn't know if it was waiting for me to get down. I didn't know. I didn't know what it was in the first place. So that's the whole creepy thing. Like I'm clueless to what this is. So finally, I mustered enough courage to lower everything, get down, get my backpack on. I'm looking all around, I'm freaking out a little bit. I start down that game trail, up over the ridge and down the game trail, looking all around, and I got to the 2-track. I got up to the landowner's house. I just threw everything in my car and drove off, and I drove home. And excuse me, on the way home, I was like, did that really just happen to me? Did I really hear that? Because when you get in a situation like that, you start self-doubting yourself immediately. If you can't see something, and I'm sure there's some people that have actually seen weird things in the woods, and then they're still questioning it. Did I just see that? Did I, so when you don't see something and it's pitch black, which is creepy in itself, because you can't see your hand.
Yeah, you've even more reason to question yourself, haven't you?
Yeah. So for the hour and 40 minutes home, I was doing a lot of soul searching and like, did I just hear that? And I was freaked out. So I got home, put all my stuff away, and was just quiet. And I was married at the time, and my ex-wife was like, are you all right? Are you okay? You're not acting like yourself. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I just had something happen in the woods today, and it just kind of shook me up a little bit. And that was it. I let it drop and never said another word about it. And I was home for, till the end of December. And I had till, I think it was the latter part of January, I think, to hunt over there. And, I didn't go back in the woods. I didn't go in the woods behind my house. I lived up Michigan, had permission to hunt the woods all around my house. And I just could not get myself to get up at 4 a.m. and walk in another woods in the dark. It really freaked me out.
So and whatever it was profound enough to.
Oh, it turned my world upside down.
Yeah,
it really did. It spooked me. And before all of this, I wasn't afraid of really anything. I mean, I've gotten scared of my life, but in an unquestionable situation, but I never was really shook up that bad. I mean, that's the first time I ever suffered any kind of terror. I think it was the size and the sound of how big it was, which is really what shook me. Because when I heard it running, I'm like, oh, no. This is huge. This is big. You know what I mean? This is like the biggest thing I've ever heard run in a woods, and I've heard all kinds of things tear off in a woods. So
Did you pick up any smells? I never asked you. Did you pick up any
there was no smell either. I've heard other people, on podcasts, because I listen to a lot of different channels, and I find it interesting to hear other people's experiences, and I heard they stink real bad. There's no smell, but there wasn't any wind either, Daniela. There was no wind in my face, nothing. It was dead still. So it wasn't like I walked over there and stepped on a branch and smelled something really bad, or I smelled something bad walking up. And the other thing that creeped me out is, unless it was really, really asleep and didn't hear me, it let me get all the way up next to it. Like, it didn't jump up before I got to it. It's like it laid there until it kind of wanted to see what I was or whatever. And the minute I stepped on it, then it got up. And then it could walk in and behind me, because it wouldn't have been able to walk in behind me. We would have been like, like that. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad it did that. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, one morning I got up about 3 o'clock. I went out in my living room. I sat down. I couldn't sleep. And I was at a crossroads. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do here? Am I going to sell all my gear and get out of this and stop doing this? I don't really want to do it, but this has rattled me so bad. Like, I'm afraid that I'm going to run in to something like this again over there. And then what am I going to do? You know what I mean? I'm in there by myself. It's not like I'm hunting with a buddy, or, somebody can come over and get me and we can walk out together. I'm up here by myself. There's nobody, and the landowner on that property is 250 yards, 2 football fields and a half away from me. So that's a long trek just to get up to his house. So, I'm to the point, do I sell all this stuff and get out of this? Or do I get back in this and get back up on the saddle and do this? And I did some soul searching, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back over there, and I'm going to at least hunt the rest of this season out. And if everything's cool, then maybe I'll go back there next year. But I gotta go back in there, because I'm not going to be able to go in any other woods. It's going to be over for me. I'm going to sell all my stuff, and that's it. So I got up, I went over there, and it was cool. I had nothing go on. So then I started hunting in there, and I hunted in there till 2003. The next year I got in there, I heard something, hit a tree out to the right of me, 150 yards. And then about a minute later, north of me, I would hear something pop on a tree. It was a tree knock. And I'm like, what the heck? I didn't even know what a tree knock was. Okay. And I'm like, what the heck? What the heck was that? I'm hearing something, and it sounds like it's whatever it's hitting, it's smashing. Like it's, if you've ever heard of baseball, if you've ever been to a baseball game and you hear a batter hit the ball sweet and it's got that pop, you know what I mean? And it echoes. This was 20 times louder than that. And I'm like, so I would hear that every once in a while. And then I started hearing in the swamp in front of me, I started hearing whoops. I'd hear a whoop over to my right, and I'd hear a whoop to my left. And then I'd hear a whoop in the middle. And I had shot a deer in there, and I had to go in there and get a deer out of there. And it was so thick in there. I mean, I had to crawl through some places to get to the deer. So that's how thick it was. So I would hear a whoop, and then I'd hear another whoop, then I hear another whoop. And this was, over a course of, 3 years, I would hear this. And it didn't really scare me. It freaked me out a little bit because I couldn't see it. Once again, I'm during the day, I couldn't see it. So I would just hear it and turn and go, what was that? But the main thing is, I would never go in the woods after this in the dark. I would never go in the morning in the dark, and I would never come out in the dark. I would wait for the sun to just be popping on the horizon where I could see. I would go in. I lost a lot of abilities to harvest nice deer over this because you got to go in the dark. And I just could not pull myself to go in and do this. So the thing that really freaked me out is the whistles. And I would hear, usually, I would never hear whistles in front of me. I would hear them behind me over the ridge. And there's a few times when it was ongoing. And I mean, I'd hear a whistle to the right of me, and then I'd hear a whistle behind me. And then I'd hear a whistle out to the left of me, to the point where I would stand up in my tree and move, which you're not supposed to do when you hunt deer. But I would stand up and turn around and look around. I'd be around the tree like, did I just hear that? And it wasn't, it was like something trying to impersonate a bird, but it was way too big. I mean, you could tell. No bird has that sound. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like, so it would be a high octave, and then it would go real low, and it would be like a really low whistle. I can't do it as low as what they were doing, but very high pitched, very low pitched. So I would hear this, then I would hear it behind me. So I'm thinking, wow, there's nothing moving back there. I can't see over the ridge, but I don't hear anything walking around. So there's got to be more than one of whatever this is. There's got to be more than one. So.
And before all this, in all your hunting years, had you ever heard any noises, any knocks, any
No,
whistles
nothing.
or anything? Nothing at all. Yeah.
Nothing. The only thing I ever did, like in Ohio, because I've hunted in Ohio and Michigan and Indiana, Ohio's my home state. And the only thing I ever thought that was odd or weird is I would find tree breaks. And I would find small saplings, a little bit bigger saplings, but I would find these tree breaks in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, there's not been anybody in here. A couple woods that I hunted, nobody had ever been in there. Like nobody was allowed to hunt it. I got special permission and I found them in there. So, I'm finding these tree breaks all over the place. And like I said in the beginning, I didn't even know what they were. I wasn't a Bigfoot crazy person. I wasn't, trying to find out about them or whatever. The only thing I saw was Patty, and that's it. So, but 2003 in December, I'd been hunting all day, and it was probably about 25 degrees. So I was pretty cold all day long. And the sun was, I had a pink sky, the sun's going down. I'm like, okay, time for me to get out. This is my thing to go. So I got my stuff and got down out of the tree and started over the ridge, and I'm walking down the same trail. And I'm walking, and all of a sudden I get hit with a stone in my left shoulder blade. And I'm like, what the heck? I was like that. I looked up, I looked down and popped my flashlight because it's starting to get kind of dark in the woods. And there's a stone there. And I was right by a pine tree. And I didn't know at the time they climbed trees or anything. Now I know, I've heard all about it. So I looked and saw the stone. So you're sitting there trying to wrap your mind around, I just got hit in the back with a stone. And, I turned around and looked with a flashlight all over the place. There's nothing there. There's nobody there. There's, nobody, I knew there was nobody on the property because I was it. But, I'm seeing this stone and I'm like, what the heck's going on here, man? I just got hit with the stone in the back and I don't see anything. So I'm like, I started to get that creepy feeling, so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep walking. So I walked about another 16, 17 steps and I get hit again. And it was so close to where the first one, this one stung a little bit. So this one was hurtled through the air pretty quick. First one was kind of a tap because I got a hunting jacket on, so it was more like I felt it. But the second one, I felt it. And it was maybe an inch from where the first one hit me. And there it is. That's the stone. Okay. And I picked it up, which I probably shouldn't have, but I did. Not so much. I wasn't even thinking about years down the road and researching all this and checking into it. I just picked it up because it hit me and I thought it was weird. So now I spin around and I got my flashlight like this, and I'm really, you know, taking time to look. And I'm like, you know, what threw that stone at me? That's the second stone. And now I'm getting creeped out because now I've been hit twice and I don't see anything. And I don't know anything about them laying on their bellies or crawling, or I've heard all kinds of people, you know, say they've seen them crawling around or on all fours or whatever. So I'm like, you know, I'm going to pick this up. I took a look at it and I just put it in my pocket, and I walked the rest of the way down the trail, and I said, I don't know why I did this. I don't have a clue why I did it, but I said in my mind, okay, guys, I'm leaving. You can have this place. I've had enough and I'm out of here. So it's all yours. And I kept walking to the 2-track. I didn't feel anything. I walked on up the 2-track very calmly. The last probably 25 yards, I ran to my car because I was freaked out, and opened my door and threw my stuff in. And I didn't even, that's the last time I have been to that property. And I never even talked to the landowner. I never even said goodbye, nothing. I just got in my car and I drove, and that was it for me. And, you know, after all that, I started to think, you know what, maybe this was what they call a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, or maybe it was a family of them, or, you know, I didn't know, you know, that they hunt with 2 or 3. I thought it was just one. The one that I spooked, it was just one at the time. I didn't hear anything else. So, you know, but I, you know, driving home, I'm like, I think I encountered a Bigfoot. I think this is what a Bigfoot is. Not having any other, you know, experiences with it. But I had, it freaked me out so bad that, excuse me, I never went back there. And I had a lot of commotion going on in that woods. I mean, you know, throwing the stones to me was the last act for me. That was it. You know, I talked to a guy years later, and he told me, well, I think they were getting ready to show themselves to you. I think that's why they were breaking the bond of just watching you. Now they're taking a step closer, and I think they wanted to evaluate you, because I think they're a curious species. They don't watch TV like us. They, you know, they're living out in the sticks. They don't have entertainment. So I think we're their entertainment. You know what I mean? I think when they come upon us or watch us, they're watching us all the time. I think I was probably watched in that woods for a long time, not even knowing. You know, if I wouldn't have spooked that one, I don't know if I would have ever had anything like that happen. Yeah. Maybe they would have just watched me. I don't know. But
they seem to have a technique though of escorting people out of properties, you know, be it throwing something, making noises, but they seem to be able to move people along, you know.
Well,
I guess, you know, like I think I talked about Kerry's encounter. He maybe was oblivious to all those noises, and eventually one had to show itself to him to go get off the property, because later in hindsight he's going, yeah, I was hearing all those noises, I just didn't.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you hear something, you know, moving through the woods fast, and you just think it's a deer. Oh, here comes a deer, I'm going to see it. Or here comes a buck, I got to get ready. You grab your bow and you're waiting to harvest this animal, and nothing shows itself, and the movement stops, and you're looking and you don't see anything. And that's the thing that gets you. I mean, I've been down in Wayne National Forest in Ohio hunting with a buddy, and we split up, and I went way back in there, and I've heard all kinds of, I mean, it just sounds like a tank going through, and you're like, what the heck is this? And I can't see nothing. I don't see it. I can't see movement. And then you don't see any deer, and you're like, and then you get back and you're back at the hotel, and you're telling your buddy, well, you know, I heard something large move through the woods. Well, what was it? I don't know. It never showed itself. I didn't see it. And then they start looking at you like, are you out there drinking? You know what I mean? Or you know, you're hearing stuff, but you're not seeing anything. So it just
It's
it
so
is
hard
what it is.
it's so hard to tell people, isn't it? Especially like you
Oh,
said the other day, your friends had said, "Oh, I've been out hunting for years, never heard a single thing. It
no,
can't exist." You
no.
know, it's strange how people can just not have an experience or anything, and they, you know, someone else like yourself is having a few encounters, or at least it seems to be some sort of. Well, you said, didn't you, that is it that when you see one, suddenly you get to see more? You know, people having multiple encounters because they've seen one. Y-
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just always thought it was just one. You know, later you learn all this stuff, but in the beginning, I thought it was just one until I started hearing whistles and, you know, whoops all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, without me hearing it move, there's no way it's getting from over here to over here in a matter of seconds. I hear they're fast, cartoon fast and all that, but and you know, my friend in Ohio, I mean, he's on the fence, and you know, he told me, he said, I just don't know because you know, I haven't been out there as long as you have, but I've been out there 15 years and I've never experienced anything like that. And I said, well, you know, I didn't pick it. I didn't choose this. I was just going out to deer hunt like all of us, excited about deer hunting and getting in the woods and being around nature. I didn't expect to come across this kind of nature. And, you know, I don't think you really want to come across something like this. And you sure in the heck, you know, you're not going to take a pop at one. I know there's people out there trying to kill him and all that, but you know, I've heard you know, experiences where you know they shot at one and then they come back with two or three, you know, and it's their family or whatever. And now you're in trouble because now you know before you had one 600-pound you know creature. Now you got three or four. Now what are you going to do? They might be throwing rocks at you, but if they get a hold of you, it's over.
You're
You
in
know,
trouble, aren't you?
oh,
You-
they have enough power to rip your head right off your body. I'm sure of. You know,
Mm.
I've heard a story about one taking a moose down, grabbing a hold of it, and ripping its head and dropping it. A moose is, you know, to their back hump is 7 feet. They're a big animal. So to
Mm.
take something like that down, or kill a deer and throw a deer up over your shoulder and carry it out, because people have seen that. I
Mm.
mean, that's very powerful, and I don't want to mess around with anything like that.
No, no, it's not worth the risk. And it just shooting anything that you don't even know what it is. I mean,
No.
I can imagine someone maybe out of fear doing it, but still, um, you've just no idea, have you, what it is? And
Well, and I don't know if I'd want to face up to something like that. Um, you know, because like I said, I told you, I think there's good ones, and I think there's, you know, ones that are having a bad day just like us, but I also think there's evil ones, and it depends which one you're going to encounter. And the good ones, you may come around a trail hiking and there's one standing there and your mouth's dropped open and you're like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And it just looks at you and just walks down over the hill into the thicket and it's gone. And then there's ones that are territorial and they'll escort you out. You know what I mean? They'll walk when you do, and they'll escort you to your car, and you're so freaked out you can't wait to open the door and get in the car, and you're not going back. And then there's ones that are evil, and they're going to come get you. And I really think that sometimes, in certain circumstances, with people that go missing in all these national parks, just disappear. I think that's the case for some of them. I'm not an expert. I'm not a field researcher. It's just my opinion. And 75% of people that see Sasquatches are hunters. They're the ones on the forefront. They're out there every day, walking all over or walking the property that they're on. They're the ones that run into them. The other, percent are people that hike or whatever. And like I said, people seeing them, they're choosing you to see them. Otherwise, these are the hide and seek champs. I know there's shirts out like that, but these things, I hate to call them things, creatures, whatever, people, they're really good at hiding themselves and camouflaging themselves. And I think a lot of times people walk right by them and never see them, and they're watching you. And like I said, if they want you to know they're there, they're going to show you. And then if you're encountering one with a disposition, you're in trouble, especially if you're 2-3 miles back in there.
Yeah, but I guess that's the same as a bear.
Yes.
If a bear hasn't got a problem with you, if it hasn't got young with it, it's just going to let you walk past, not bothered. If it's got cubs, it's gonna show itself, maybe just to
Right.
defense. And maybe Sasquatch is like that. It doesn't want to show itself, but if push comes to shove, it might have to, and they do. And like, people say there was a raptor, and everybody Bigfoot following you to try and run you out doesn't make sense in the beginning. They don't want to be found. They don't, but once you've stumbled across them, and
there's
if
no
they
choice.
move you out of the area, that's what they might do. It sounds like a contradiction, but these things don't want to be found, and yet people are seeing them. So,
Well, and you're in their house. Like it's just a forest preserve or woods or national forest, whatever, thousands of acres. I mean, you're still in their living room. It'd be like you coming home and there's somebody standing in your living room. You're going to want them out of your house. You're not going to sit there and say, "Hey, how's it going? Let's sit down and watch some TV." You want them out. And it's the same, thing for them. I mean, you're in their territory. That's why there's tree breaks all over the place. You can go this way, but don't go this way. And, I found tree breaks that, the limb has been not only broke, but twisted, in such a violent way. I don't know why they do that, other than maybe they're telling another group of Bigfoot that, hey, this is my territory. And if you come in here, you see this branch, that's what I'm going to do to you. You know what I mean? That's their sign language, or, to let you know what's going on. I mean, I don't know. I've seen, stumps of trees turned upside down and stuck in the ground. I've seen pictures of that. I've never physically seen that, but I've seen pictures of that as well, up in British Columbia or Alaska or whatever. And where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of miles, people are finding footprints in the middle of nowhere. I mean, who's going to go up there and make footprints when you don't know if the next person's going to come way out there? I mean, out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, but
I think the majority of us, believe this thing exists.
right.
And, I don't think, it's proving that, it's a question of whether, who's going to go out and then do it. We know they're there, don't we? We pretty much. I have to, like I say, I trusted KERRY. I had to go. I didn't have any personal experience, but 100% believe they're there because of KERRY mainly. He was the
Well,
one.
he actually saw one,
Yeah.
And that's what freaked him out. And that's when I heard, his experience. That's what drew me to him, is some of the things he said and emotions is what I had. Like getting out of the woods after it happened, I was scared to death, looking over my shoulder. Is this thing coming after me? Is it going to get me before I get out of the woods and pull me back? Am I going to die? I was spent. I was physically, emotionally drained when I got in my car to drive home. I was shaking, a real nervous shake, and it took me a while getting away from that property before I calmed down. My heart was racing, and it's just, when these experiences happen, you can only tell what happened to you. But if you're not there with me, all you have is me to relate it. And, I'm just telling you the best of my ability what happened to me. And
Yeah.
it was it was a very fearful time for me. It was hard. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done, going back in that woods. And it freaked me out so bad that I wouldn't go in there in the dark. And in fact, this was 23 years ago, and all of deer season last year, I never went out in a morning hunt in the dark. And it's 23 years later, and I still am hesitant to go in a woods in the pitch black dark, because it creeps me out after what happened. Now, if I go to Ohio and I hunt with a couple buddies, we all go in the woods together and then we split up. I'm a little bit better doing that because I know I got somebody that I can call or yell or whatever. And, you know, safety's in numbers, as they say. But when
Definitely.
you're out there by yourself and you're walking in an area by yourself in the dark and you can't see nothing, um, that in itself is unsettling. And,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, 23 years later, and I'm still not going in the woods in the dark, and I'm not coming out in the dark. Like when it's pink sky, I start tearing down and I'm going. I
Yeah.
may be home by the time it starts to really get dark, but I'm almost home. Or I'm up on my road walking to my house. I'm cool with that. But to be out in there, yeah, no. I don't know if I can ever do that again. I mean, I'm lucky I'm even hunting, but I don't know if I can do that.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to go back there and face, you
Oh,
know, whatever could happen. You just don't know, do you? And I'm
well,
not
you're putting,
surprised, you know.
yeah, you're putting your life on the line because, like I said, I don't know if these things have a bad disposition. If somebody's shot at them before, and now I have a weapon in my hand and they're seeing it, and they think that I'm going to shoot at them. I mean, I don't know. You know, I
Well,
don't. I don't have a clue of
no.
what they're thinking in their mind. I know they're smart because this thing tried to be really stealthy. Like it was thinking in its mind, I don't want to let this person know where I am. You know what I mean? I don't
Mm,
want him coming over here. So, you have to have some kind of intellect or brain to, process that and to be quiet. But once it started running, the jig was up. I mean, you know, it's
it's gonna.
showed me basically, hey, this thing's big and powerful, and I don't have anything like this in the woods.
Mm.
So, you know,
See, I don't know if they're aware of their size, and this is another thing that animals don't. My dog, you know, just about comes past my ankles, and you'd think she was a Rottweiler behind a door,
sure,
you know. And I don't know if how they work mentally. Do they
right,
feel like their size and presence scare
right.
you, or do they feel like they have another skill that threatens another animal? Or
Well, it's the whole thing with infrasound, which I'll get to that here in a little bit, or people freezing up, people that see them freeze up. I don't know if it's the size of the deltoids or the biceps or I've heard, bowling pin forearms, massive thighs, and something staring at you and looking at you and doing that and just staring at you
terrifying. Yeah.
with big almond black eyes, just staring at you like, okay, now you make your move, and they're not moving. Like they're standing in the trail and they're not moving. And then they would just walk off. I mean, that would probably give someone a heart attack. I don't know how anybody would make it through something like that. I don't know if I would, you know,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
I don't because I mean, I can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine it. You know, how people walk away from these experiences. I mean, they do obviously, but the impact after that on people's lives is, you know, is the sad thing about this is there's a lot of people that have been, you know, damaged by seeing these things, have really affected them and the lifestyle and the things they used to do. If you can't simply, you know, go back into the woods again, that's
No.
that's a big thing. That's a big deal. That's something that, you know, has had a huge impact on you.
Yeah.
And where do people go to get over that? I mean, it's not easy, is it? To
There's
work
nobody you
through
can talk
it.
to. There's
Yeah.
nobody you can talk to because three-quarters of the people think you're crazy. I mean, I went from 2000 deep into 2003 before I broke down and told my soon-to-be ex-wife, which we were at a child custody hearing, and I broke down. We were waiting to go in and see a magistrate about child custody, and I just broke down and told her, and I said, I got to tell you something because outside of my mother, you've been my wife, you've been with me for a long time, and you're the closest person to me, and I have to tell you this. So I told her, what had happened, and right away she laughed, and it crushed me because I'm like, I'm not making this up.
Mhm.
This is not just something I'm telling you because I don't have anything else to do. and I'm making up a story. I mean, this all really happened to me, and I'm trying to get through it mentally so I don't crack up. And, people around me, I wanted to tell them, but they look at you with that look. They either roll their eyes or they look at you with that look like, what have you been smoking? Like I've never seen anything like that. I know of it. There's t-shirts and all this other stuff, but 3/4 of these people don't go in the woods like I do. They're in a small town or a city. They don't go hiking. They don't camp. So of course they're not going to see it unless one walks through the town in your backyard.
Yeah.
You're not going to really know outside of finding Bigfoot or something like that. And they made that out to be a joke. And that's very condescending to guys like me that, I know Cliff and them are on there and they're serious about it, and Bobo, but it's kind of a slap across a deer hunter's face when you go in the woods and you have experiences like this, and you can't tell people because you don't want them to think you're cracking up.
And why would why would you make that up? Why would you make
because
like
I don't know. There's people that probably do.
Yeah.
They want attention or whatever. I don't really want attention out of this. There's no parade. I'm not making money from this. I'm not on TV or have a documentary on something or whatever. I don't want to do that. And I'm just trying to get awareness out there that when you go in a national park where people disappear, sometimes 200, 300 people a year, which they don't tell you about, and you just up and disappear, or they find a person that's don't have any clothes on and they've had a massive heart attack, probably from witnessing something like this. What do you say? How do you tell somebody? How do you make them understand that, this is real? This really happened to me, but like I said, I'm not looking for fame and fortune. I'm just a deer hunter. I love hunting. That's it, and I talked to KERRY, I don't know, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and talked to him on the phone for quite a while. He told me about his experience and I said, yes, I had heard it. And he asked me to come on the show, and then things didn't come together and I didn't get on here, and, he passed away, God bless his heart and his soul. But, I believed him because KERRY was a big guy. KERRY wasn't a little guy. He was a big guy. And for him to break down and almost come close to crying, and quivering in his voice, I'm like, he had to have seen something. I mean, nobody's going to go through all that emotion and make something up. No. And, I only had happened to me what happened to me, and I'm just trying to relate it. And, that's it. That's all I got, but I'm not looking for anything. And there's no money in this, in fact, if anything, there's ridicule. I mean, people make fun of you. People, they judge your character and say not good things about you, and they think you're crazy. And, I'm crazy in a fun way. I've always been my whole life, but I'm not crazy to the point of where I'm trying to, fool people. And I don't have time for that. I just want people to be aware of what's going on out there and to watch what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's what KERRY wanted as well. He wanted to spread awareness, and there's plenty of people in here tonight who aren't laughing and know exactly how you feel and what you've gone through. And there is a place, we do have places where people can come and talk about it. And I'm glad you reached out and came on tonight, because people need to feel connected to these interactions, even if it's just something similar, just gives you that little bit more. Yes, that's exactly what I saw. That's what I heard. We need to back each other up. Help our own through this, because it is so unique, and it's a shame. This is what really for me for a lot of years is I always feel for the people that are experiencing it. It's not just about the Bigfoot story and hearing what happened. Actually, there's someone behind that story who's going through a terrible time, because of it. And we can't really we're going to struggle to find Bigfoot really, but we make more use listening to people and spreading awareness than, trying to find it. We'll do more at spreading awareness. I mean, I know there are people out there trying to do the best. Shane's in tonight. He had the same. He said telling his wife was the hardest part.
Yeah, and the thing of it is when this happens to you, you're now a part of it, no matter if you want to be a part of it or not. I mean, my girlfriend gets me Bigfoot T-shirts and stickers, and it's kind of fun for her. I had a hard time telling her, and it's 23 years later because, we're close, and I don't want her to think I'm some nut. You know what I mean? But when I told her the Michigan experience, she was just like, wow, I wouldn't be able to go back out there. I don't know how you're doing that. And I said, well, it was hard for me to do. I mean, it was soul searching time. It was either sell all my stuff like KERRY and just stop and not go in the woods or go have anything to do with it for years, or I got to get back out there because it's something I love doing. And some people don't make it and they sell their stuff and they stop. And I just made the choice and the effort that, that's the other reason why I went back over there for 3 more years, is because I wasn't going to let these people or creatures, whatever you want to call them, I wasn't going to let them push me out. I was scared and I was leery every time I went in. And I shot some deer in there, and I had to harvest them and take the Eternals out, and I had to drag them, and you're watching all around you, but I didn't. My biggest thing is I didn't ask for this. I wasn't looking for this. I just wanted to deer hunt, and I don't know why this happened to me. I really don't. I can't explain it, other than it happened to me, and everything I told you is 100% true. And I've lost some friends over it. That's the sad part of it. That makes me want to tell it even more, because it's like I'm not going to shut up about this. I'm not going to hold it in anymore, because I about went bonkers doing that. Because you feel all alone. I'm telling you, you feel all alone. So if anybody out there's encountered one, speak out. Tell Daniela or somebody, just go talk to somebody. If they laugh at you, they laugh at you, but keep telling people. Don't bottle it in, because that's not good for you. Because it was really hard for me.
You're absolutely right. You've got to stick to your truth. And if it's something that's affected you, and they're not your friends if they're laughing at you and not supporting you. I mean, you can have experiences and you don't have to believe it, but support your people. And you sound like a decent guy to me. I don't think you make up, shit to your friends all the time. There's no reason not to doubt you. And like you say, being an experienced hunter, why would you make it up?
Yeah, I don't know what the point is. I mean, like I said, if you're an attention freak and you want to have attention and you don't have enough attention in your life, I could see you faking footprints or whatever you want notoriety, but I really do not. I don't really want that. I was at a friends get together last night. We go over there every weekend and hang out with some close friends. And my friend Don's daughter, her boyfriend brought up the subject of Bigfoot, and my girlfriend said, "Oh God, don't bring that up." And he was like, "Why?" And Don right away said, "Well, Scott's met Bigfoot. He talked to him." So it's I get that it's a joke, kind of, ease the attention, or because when I told him, I wasn't joking around. I mean, I told him it's part of my soul now. So I just was very honest and said, "Look, these things are real, man. And it's okay if you don't want to go out in the woods. He doesn't hunt or anything, and that's cool. And if you don't want to believe, or you don't believe me, that's fine too. That's your prerogative. I respect it. I'm not going to come down on you and say, oh, these things are real and you better believe, because that's not what it's about for me. It's, people ask me all the time, well, Scott, do you believe in Bigfoot? It's not anymore if I believe. I'm a knower. There's a difference. There's a difference between being on the fence or, well, this could be real, or I kind of believe I'm a knower. I'm way beyond that point. I'm way beyond it, because the other things that have happened to me, it just keeps reinforcing it, and it's not going to let me get away to the point where I'm like, I don't believe in this. I must have been crazy. Um, you
Even
know,
you, even those friends though that maybe now you've fallen out with, I mean, it might just one day happen to them, and you might have just saved a situation for them. You might have just give them a little bit of a heads up, a little seed there, and that they may react in a good way, in a positive way, rather than freak out. Just the fact that they've heard about it and you've told them, whether they believe it or not, there might come a day where they see one,
right?
and it might be a bit easy for them to accept what they're seeing because you told them. So, but like someone said in the chat, sorry, I can't find who it was, but they said bamboo. If you lost friends over it, probably weren't your real friends.
Uh,
Um,
that's true. I mean, probably not. I mean, who really are our real friends? I mean, you go through people in life, and one little thing splits your friendship up, and then you've known this person for 25 years, and you're not speaking, and
yeah,
it's silly to not speak over um, the reference of this because of something that happened to me, and it hasn't happened to you. Like my friend in Ohio, um, I'm just like, maybe it'll happen to you. Maybe you'll experience it, but I don't wish it on you because it was a very frightful thing for me. it
yeah,
it scared me really, really bad. And when you have that kind of moment in your life, you do a lot of soul searching, and that's
definitely.
just how it is. And I don't wish it on anybody. Like I said, I didn't pick and choose this. This just happened to me, and I don't wish it on anybody. I'm not out there trying to find them. I'm not out there with trail cams trying to take pictures of them. Um, I have had trail cams up before for deer hunting, but I'm not looking for them.
Yeah.
I stumbled across one, and then his whole family came in and got into it. And what happened to me is what happened to me, and what I heard is what I heard, and that is what it is. And like I said, if people don't agree with it, that's okay. That's fine. I
Yeah,
know it happened. I,
exactly,
you
exactly.
know,
Just want to say thank you to Mike's Adventures. I appreciate that. Well, the thing is, it's not the end of the story, is it, about the stone?
no,
You, yeah, this
no.
maybe opened up a can of worms for you.
Yes, it's a big can of worms.
Yeah.
Um, I was hunting or I was working at a hospital up in Saginaw, Michigan. I lived in Frankenmuth, and I was hunting with, or not hunting with. I'm got a different train of thought here. I was working with a friend of mine that was a Native American, and we would work every other weekend, and him and I were just happened to be parked right next to each other, and we were talking about all kinds of things. And I knew he was Native American, and I just said, hey, I said, you know how do you see Bigfoot, or how does your people see Bigfoot? And he's like, oh, they're real. Are you kidding me? We don't even really discuss it. We just tell the little ones. And if we're living up around a forest or whatever, and they're playing in the backyard or up around the forest area, that don't be out there after dark, or when it gets dark. You need to come stay close to the house and come in the house. But we believe in them. It's not even a discussion. I said, really? I said, well, I got an interesting story. And so I told him about my story, but I didn't tell him it was me, because once again, you know I'm afraid to tell this guy I work with, and we're working in security together. So we have to have each other's backs in situations with patients, or, if they're violent or whatever. And I was scared to death to tell him it was me, because once again, we have the cuckoo factor, and I don't want him to think I'm cuckoo or nuts, even though his people believe in it. We're working together. So I told him, I just made up a name and said it was one of my friends. And I said, he had a couple stones thrown at him, and my friend's like, wait a minute, what do you mean a couple stones? I said, well, he got hit in the back in the shoulder blade with a couple stones. And he was like, well, what did he do? And I said, well, the second stone, he bent down and picked it up. And he said, whoa, wait a minute. Back this bus up. What? He picked the stone up? And I said, yeah, he picked it up. He has it today. He said, oh, no. He said, he needs to get rid of that stone right now. And I said, well, why? And he said, because my people believe that if you touch anything that they touch, if you gift them and they gift you, or you just touch something they touch, or you have it in your possession, that connects you supernaturally to them, and you will run across them again, or they'll find you. And I'm thinking, oh Lord. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And he's like, no, that's what we believe. And we don't touch anything that they touch. We don't grab anything, touch anything, have anything in possession. We leave it alone. And we don't really gift. We respect them, but we don't gift them. We don't feed them, nothing. We don't do that. That connects you to them. And I'm like, oh man, you're kidding me. He's like, no, we take that very serious. So I have this in my possession, and I've had it since 2003. And I moved here to Northwest Indiana, and I was hunting over on my girlfriend's mom and dad's property in November of 2015. And it was in November sometime, close to the rut. And it was getting to be pink sky. And I'm starting to lose light in the woods. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to harvest anything. I saw some deer, but it was uneventful. I didn't get anything close to me. So I was like, well, it's my time to go. The sun's going down, and I'm not going to be in this woods. Now, this woods is about 45 acres. It's not a huge woods. It's not a little woods, but it's not a huge woods either. Not like I was up in Michigan. And then there's woods all around me that are bigger. There's 300, 400, 500 acre woods to the east of me, and so on all around me. So I get down out of my stand. I get all my gear. I found one tree break in there, an actual tree break. That was in 2018. And then 2019, this is after this, but 2019, I found a bunch of tree breaks right over by my tree stand. So I don't know if this was telling me to stay out of there or what. But getting back to what I was saying, I got all my equipment. I got out, walked out of the side of the woods. Now, my girlfriend's mom and dad have a house that's about 200 yards from where I was hunting. And it's a big open field. And then their woods is over to the left side of the house if you're standing in their backyard and you're facing east. So I come out and I'm walking south, and I turn, take a right, and I'm walking in this bean field. And the beans are about up to my mid-thigh, something like that. And I'm walking, and I'm just, walking back to the house because I used to hunt there on the weekends. So I would get up there on Friday, stay Saturday, Sunday, hunt, and then go home. It's about an hour and 40 minutes from my house. And as I'm walking in the middle of the bean field, I'm about 75 yards from the woods. All the leaves are on the ground. It's November, and I start hearing something from the back corner of the woods, and it's walking direct, like we're going to intersect, and it sounds really big. Like, it's not like you kind of go, do I hear something? No. From the first steps I heard clear in the back of the 40-acre woods, I heard it coming, and it sounded pretty big. Like I could hear it crunching, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like a deer. That sounds like feet. And, I stopped because we're going to intersect, like that. And I stopped, and I turned to my right where I heard the sound coming. And I said to myself, okay, if a guy steps out, because it's walking bipedal like me, if he steps out, I'm going to walk over to him and say, what are you doing on this property? Because we encounter that. So I'm going to say, what are you doing? And you need to get out of here because you don't have permission to hunt here. Mm-hmm. So this thing walks within about 10 or 15 yards from the edge of the woods, and it stops. Now it's kind of getting dark, and I can't see into the woods. I got light out here in the field, but I can't see in. It's starting to get black. And I'm really really focusing my eyes, like, come on out, dude, so I can say something to you. And this thing screamed at me, and it was the loudest thing I had ever heard. Like, I've heard lions roar at the zoo, and this was 10 or 15 times louder than a lion's roar, and that's loud. And but this thing was loud, and the only thing I can compare it to is like an air raid siren or a tornado siren, if you have it in a park and you've ever been down there, and it starts to go off, and it's real guttery low, and then it just goes really loud and big, and it's real high pitched. Some people say it sounds like a woman being murdered or whatever, but it's just ungodly loud. This took me right back to 2000. And I just reflexed, and I went down on one knee in that bean field, and I pulled my bow up in front of my face like this, and I'm looking through the bow, and I'm like, what in the hell is this? Like,
Wow.
It's not coming out, and it just screamed at me, and it's not moving. It's just standing on the inside of the woods, and I cannot see it. And it's getting darker and darker and darker. Well, the second one was more of a roar. It wasn't a scream. First one was a scream. Second one was just it just got really loud, and to the point where I felt the vibration of it on the right pectoral muscle of my chest, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is 2015, so now I know a little bit about infrasound. I know a little bit about them. I'm actually feeling it on my chest, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm out of here. So, I was kind of like the cartoon on TV where your feet move first before your body. Like, I took off like I was shot out of a cannon, and I'm running for my life. And, I'm in my 50s now, and there's no sprinting. I ran track in high school. I was pretty quick, but there's no sprinting anymore in my life. And I'm running. I probably was barely running, but to me, I'm moving, and I'm running for everything. And this thing's still yelling or roaring. And I got all the way to the yard of that house, and I turned around, threw my bow down, and my hands were on my legs, and I was bent over, looking up, trying to get my wind. And I'm like, okay, I can barely see out in the field, but I want to see if I can see some movement or whatever this is, because I got to see this. And nothing. It's like it just was in thin air. I didn't hear any more footsteps. There's no growling. There's no yelling. Nothing. Like, it was just gone. Like, it just evaporated. Nothing. And I stood there. And then I started to get the heebie-jeebies, because I'm like, well, what happens if it's somehow it's moving in and around, and it's going to pop out the edge of the woods here where I am? You start thinking all this crazy stuff, and you just work yourself up into a frenzy. Like, I'm freaking my own self out. You know what I mean? So I grabbed my bow, and I turned around, and I ran through the yard up onto the gravel area of their driveway. Excuse me. And I ran over to my car, and I think this was Friday night, and I threw my stuff in my car. I did a Yui, and I drove all the way home. I didn't even stay there for the weekend. My girlfriend's mom and dad, unfortunately, they were gambling at a casino, so I was the only person there, of course, because I could have went in there and said, did you just hear what I heard? Did you hear that? So I could get some concrete thing other than myself going, did I hear this? But I felt it. It's not only that, did I hear it? I actually really felt the vibration, which I've heard other people have done. They feel it. Now, I didn't get sick. I didn't get nauseated. I've heard some people have gotten sick, like they're going to throw up. But I felt it. And it's like, I was out. See you later. That's enough for me. But I have found a tree break, and then I found some tree breaks in 2019 over by my stand. And then, I sent you the pictures about the tree I got on trail cam for the deer I had. And
I'll show them if you want. Yeah,
Sure.
they're
Sure.
interesting. Just before I do that, Gene Hudson mentioned before, because they can follow you home with the stone.
That's the thing I'm leery about behind my house, because I hunt the woods behind my house, and it's a pretty big woods. It's wide, but it runs I don't know how many miles long ways. I should have got a topical map of the woods I hunt behind my house. I could have sent that to you so people could kind of get a logistic thing of what I'm hunting and where I hunt. But I hunt a big open field, and then the woods goes away from me. But I'm really, like I said, like you said, Bigfoot antennas. I mean, now I really watch where I'm going, what I'm doing. My head's up. I'm not looking down at my feet anymore. I don't want to step on a branch. I'm looking up everywhere, and I'm just waiting to have something happen behind my house, because I think my friend who's a Native American was right. I should have never picked this stone up, because that's my second encounter, and although it was brief, but I'm just worried that eventually I'm going to see one, that this is going to happen, and this is all materializing towards this. um this is a possibility, and I don't know how I'm going to handle it if that happens. I want to go hunting out in the Midwest with a couple of my buddies this fall. We've been trying to plan this trip, or maybe back down to Wayne National Forest. But I've heard some people on Wes's show, Sasquatch Chronicles, some people that have been down there and seen them down there and actually seen them. And I've been back in there and heard stuff. And I don't know if I want to go down there, because I'm afraid I'm going to run into one, and I'm going to be by myself, and then what am I going to do?
Well, it sounds like you can't even go out without relaxing and not thinking about them.
No, it's on my mind all the time now.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you, I come September every fall, for some reason I don't know why I do this, but I listen to a lot of different podcasts, different people on Sasquatch, and listen to their encounters, and it just fuels the fire. It fuels the fire for me. It's like, why are you doing this to yourself? Because you're going to have to go out there, if you still want to do this. And I love hunting, and I didn't give it up in the first place. So it's, I don't know why I do it to myself. It's an oxymoron thing, I think. I don't know, but.
Well, if we had a few answers, if we knew what was going on, people wouldn't be putting themselves through this,
Right.
And that's what it is. You don't know where to go. There's no book on it. There's no manual, is there? It's
No.
and
There wasn't anything in 2000. There wasn't anything in 2003. I mean, now I've learned a lot. I've went in and listened to other people's encounters. I've watched some researchers. I've been on, some other podcasts with some guys that have actually seen them, and they're out in Oregon and doing field research, and they've found tree breaks like the ones I found, because they didn't say anything about it. I told them about the tree breaks, and they're like, yes, we have them out here too. The characteristic is the same thing. And I'm like, well, now I know it's real, because, nobody's hoaxing me, and the things I found, I've been in these areas by myself. There's not that I know of, is there anybody out there? And like I said, to do that, not only break it, twist it, you got to be a very big, strong person. And I don't know a lot of people like that. So, but yeah, I should have never picked that stone up.
Jean again says, Scott, if they were going to hurt you, they would have hurt you by now. That's possible. Maybe in that area you were at. I mean, they could have, and this is the thing, is the way you look at it. They didn't, nothing hurt you. I mean, it scared the heck out of you. But
was I dealing with something that has a bad disposition? See, this is the thing that people get wrong. They think all of them are nice. They think, they can feed them Twinkies or gift them. I've seen people do that and all that. And that's all great if that's what you want to do in your area. I got a friend in Missouri, and he leaves them a bucket of fish. And he said they're so smart that he'll leave them, 4 fish. They'll take 3, leave him a fish. Like, here, you have a fish, you're gifting us. We appreciate it, but you take a fish too. Okay, well, that one's maybe nice if you don't make it mad. But there's, I could have just encountered some that were inquisitive about me, and weren't really in a bad disposition, but I could go somewhere else and run into one that wants to rip my head off. And then what do I do? You know what I mean? And I'm afraid all the okay things I've had happen, I'm going to meet one that's had a bad day and doesn't want me in the area. And I'm not going to be able to run from it. You know, they have you if they want you.
You got to take that stone back. You got to take that stone back.
I know. It's, you know, my son still lives up there in Michigan, and I want to just send it to him in a box and say, do not touch, but, you know, go over to where I was and just dump it just inside and then leave. You know what I mean? Because it's, you know, it's about a, I don't know, 6-hour drive for me from here to get up there. And although I'd really like to do it, I just don't even want to go back anywhere around there. It creeps me out. Yeah. And it's the reason why I didn't go back. It just totally creeped me out.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Let's have a look at some interesting pictures that you sent me. Okay. You have a I didn't know they existed, these trail cams with the antennae on that can send you your pictures.
Yeah, right there it is.
Wherever you are. Yeah.
Yep. It's basically a spy point, and it's a link WMV LTR, and what it does is it's battery operated, but it'll sit out in the woods for, you know, you can get probably, if you don't have it by limbs to where it's going to be, because every time it's motion censored, and every time something motion sensors, it hits the motion sensor, it triggers it, and then it snaps a picture. So you could have 5 pictures, you could have 10 pictures, and you can buy different packages. I think mine's 500 pictures, and I pay $5 a month, but you can up it if you want more pictures. But what it does is it sends a picture to me from an hour and 45 minutes away, right in my living room, to my phone. So I'll get an alert and I'll go on it, and then I can see the picture. And so I had a tree that was down from my camera. I don't know how far away it is. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, maybe 100 feet, maybe. And I kept having a squirrel on this tree. And, you know, squirrels, the body of a squirrel is probably 10 inches. The tail's probably 5 inches long, big bushy tail. They're probably 15 inches, okay, at the most. You know, I think the biggest, fattest squirrel I've ever seen was maybe 11, 12 inches, and the tail was, you know, 5 inches. So 15 to 17 inches. So I kept seeing squirrels on this tree, and I'm like, oh, Lord, the only place I put my trail cam on a trail to see deer, I got, you know, squirrels running around. So I sent you some pictures of the squirrel on the tree, squirrel on the side of the tree. And then one morning I got this picture, and I was like, you know, well, that's a squirrel. You can see it doesn't have such a big bushy tail, but
it doesn't. No. Well, we can see here, yeah, it's not that long, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably about 15 inches. You know what I mean? From head to the butt of it's probably 8, 9 inches. You know, you can see the small, fine hair on the squirrel. Then their tail gets a little bit longer here, bushier, and that's probably 15 inches.
Yeah. And so the next one is, I should have this set up better, but I can't seem to. So here's another picture here where it looks like
that's the
tail there, and then further up here we've got.
Yeah, I think that was maybe a foot of a squirrel or something, or I don't know. It looks like it's wrapped around. You know, these things are like on the tree, like you can physically see on a tree, and then there's a squirrel tail behind the tree. So you see the line of the tree, so you can see the tail.
Yeah.
You know, behind the tree, so you can see the line.
That's
of
right.
the tree.
That's right. So let's go to the next one. So again.
And then here's a squirrel on the side of a tree.
Yeah.
You see the body of the squirrel, the head of the squirrel. You see the tail, how bushy it is. Yeah. And again, it's probably 15 inches long with a big bushy tail.
Yeah, if you have a look actually, that log and then up to there on that tree gives you an idea of how big that is.
Yeah, and it's on the side of the tree again.
Yeah, Yeah. And so here we go. This.
And then there's this. And it looks, to me, it looks like a shoulder, an elbow, a bicep down through the arm. And then it looks like below the arm, it looks like it's kind of going on down. If you look really closely, like it gets dark. And then at the top of the shoulder, it looks like it's going up into a neck. And that's not a squirrel. I just showed you pictures of a squirrel. That's not a squirrel. That looks like a very hairy arm to me. That's I have a friend that I sent this to, and he's a Bigfoot researcher, and he contacted me about 15-20 minutes later, and he said, man, that's not a squirrel. I don't know what that is, but that's not a squirrel. And that's not a squirrel's tail, because that's about 4 foot length, because he's got a program that he can tell how tall something is. Right. And he said that's about a 4 to 4.5 foot long thing. And he said that would be the longest tail. Yeah. He said that squirrel would have to be about 5 foot in length with a 4 foot tail, and that'd be the largest squirrel in history. So I think it's a Bigfoot, because this is where I got yelled at in this woods, and I think it's hiding behind this big tree. And I found tree break in there. Tree breaks over by my stand. This is where I got yelled at outside this woods in 2015. And this just came to me on a trail cam pic one morning. It was in, let's see, it's 2023 for season 2020. 2021, I think, is the, I got this picture in 2021. So
it's very interesting, isn't it? And
yeah, I mean, to me, I know that's not a squirrel.
Well, the squirrel the tail was from here to about here.
Yeah.
And this is much longer.
Yes, and plus it's behind the tree. You can see the edge of the tree in front of it. It's behind the tree. It's not on the side of the tree. No. It's like, and the other thing is, it's vertical. There's nothing in that woods that's vertical. Everything is horizontal. Even that squirrel climbing up the tree, okay, it's vertical, but you see the tail, and you can see the body. The tail doesn't keep on going. I mean, it would be a huge squirrel.
But it's on the tree, like you say. You can see the tail.
It's not behind the tree.
Yeah. And
so that's on the edge of the tree, not behind the tree. That's behind the tree.
Very interesting. What do people think?
And if you get up by the top of the shoulder, the hair's like bushy, a little bit longer, and then you can see it continue to go in behind the tree. Like it's part of the shoulder into a neck or something, is what I saw, because I took a magnifying glass to this, and the picture doesn't do it justice, but I tried to blow it up a little bit so I could see it a little bit better. But the hair is bushy off of it. Like people say that they see them, the hair is like all bushy around it. I mean, there's hair all over it. But that's not a squirrel. I know what squirrels look like. I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, and that's not a squirrel.
It is truly fascinating, isn't it? And just makes you want to question more. Okay, well, I've got another comment here. I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but Jean says you can't bring the stone back because you told them you were not coming back, and that would be breaking your word. It would be worse, and you can't. She means can't here, untouch it. Too late. So, Jean, what can we do then? Jean, if you've got any advice, let us know what you think is the best thing to do.
I mean that's true. I did tell him I'm not going to come back there, but it's almost like they touch something and they touch you with it, and then you take it from them, or you take what they touch and you leave with it. It's almost like, I guess maybe I'm stealing it. I don't know. I didn't really think about that, because one, I'm dealing with something that I'm not familiar with. I don't have any information on it at the time. And I'm like, I don't know what my boundaries are, I guess is what I want to say. I don't know what you can do and what you can't do. I don't think a lot of people do know, you know, even field researchers, unless you're studying a family and you have experience in doing it, then maybe but I don't know. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. Sorry the pun about the pun, but um, I'm out of, I'm clueless. I really don't know what to do other than, am I going to run into one of these things or not? And every time I go out, it's in the back of my head. Is this going to be the day? Is this going to be the day when I'm going to hear a pop or a crack behind me and there's one standing there? I don't know.
Ask them not to scare you and that you don't want to see them or even know that they are there, and that you are just want to enjoy the woods and feed your family and you want to reach peace with nature. Maybe it's that simple. If you go in with that intention of, look, I'm not here to
I don't
upset
know.
anyone.
I mean, it'd be great if it was that easy. It would be great if I could just do that. And, uh, I don't
Well,
know.
baby steps. And I think the other good thing is going out with friends, like you say. Go out with your friends, go out with other people. Don't go out alone.
Yeah.
Safety in numbers.
Yes.
And
And that's why I wanted to come on here, and I want to tell people that hike a lot. Hike with a buddy or hike with 2 or 3 friends. Don't, I have all these people they solo hike, and, some of the people I've seen them, they've had a run in with them, and, they're out in a tent by themselves, and 3 o'clock in the morning, they're having to go with them. So, um, but yeah, I agree with Gene. I totally respect them. Like I said, I'm not trying to, if I knew where there was a family of them, I wouldn't tell anybody. I don't, I only got that picture that I showed Daniela because that was on, that was on my phone, and I thought it was odd and weird, and it's not a squirrel, and I've been screamed at over there. So to me, that just reinforces what I'm telling people, that these things are real, and don't be going out by yourself, because if you run into one in a bad way, it may not go that good for you, or you may not come back. I'm not saying that happens all the time because I don't know, but when you just disappear and they find articles of your clothing or a backpack 3 miles away, or you're a deer hunter and you just disappear and they can't find anything. I don't know so much if it's a UFO coming down out of the sky and beaming you up. I don't know about that. Something's taken you, and when they find a shoe or whatever, I mean, if you think about it, if a bear attacks you, they might drag you a little way, or they might claw you up, or bite you, whatever, but somebody's going to find you somewhere. You don't just disappear like you're not on the face of the earth anymore. And a lot of these people, David Paulides, he has his documentaries and his books, and these people just come up missing. They're gone. And I don't want to be one of those people. So having respect, yes, I have a boatload of respect for these creatures or people. I just wish I knew, or all of us knew, if they're actual people. Because they all look different. I've seen pictures of, some look like Cro-Magnon Man, some look like Patty. They got a Conix head. Some just have real long hair in their face. Their hair's matted. Some of them their hair glistens in the sun. I don't know, but yeah, I have a respect for them. I wish they would be a protected species, but we all know the road that's going down, and that's going to hurt the logging business and hiking business for these national forests. I mean, yeah, you're going to have some ding dongs go in there and try and see them or hunt them or whatever, but most people are going to stay out. They're not going to go in there. You know what I mean? When you don't know what's going on.
They can't seem to find them anyway, if they
No.
go looking for them.
That's what I said. If they want you to know that they're there, they're going to show themselves. And if they don't, and I think that they can feel who we are. I think some supernatural way, they know your heart, or they know who you are. They know if you're a gentle person or if you're a serial killer. I mean, I think they know if you're an evil person or if you're a good person. And I think the people that they don't mess with, maybe they just walk away. They can see inside your soul maybe, and they know that you're a good person, and there's no point to mess with you. Why mess with you? Other than the disposition thing, some of them can probably tell that you're a bad person or an evil person, and they're going to come at you. I don't know.
That could be very true. I mean, dogs have a very good sense of when
Oh
they
yeah,
people and they don't. I'm not just
yeah.
using the dogs. I think there's many other animals like that, that get that sense. And,
Right.
maybe they watch people hunting. Maybe they see people that really are not good towards animals, and people that are respectful towards the animals that they're killing. I'm sure there's a mix of things going on, and I think they can pick up people's intentions. I mean, I don't know, but we can pick up people's intentions.
Oh yeah.
Animals can pick up other animals'
Yes.
intentions. It's not a magic thing. It's natural, and there's no reason why they can't sense what you're feeling, and how you can't sense what they're feeling, what they're giving off. If there is this EMF, that's coming from the heart. That's electronic, you know, waves coming from their hearts, from your hearts. Imagine how big their hearts are, and maybe how much
Oh
power they can give. I think an elephant's heart is like 48 pounds. I
yeah.
don't know how big a Sasquatch heart is, but if you're talking about size and the amount of electronic, magnetic stuff you can give off it,
Yeah. See,
then
that's a lot that I don't know about this subject. I don't, the whole infrasound thing. I was like, but I felt it. If I wouldn't have felt it, I would have been kind of like, I don't know about that, because I haven't experienced it. The roar thing, that's real. Yeah, that's what they do, and it's, I was on Wes's show, and he said, have you ever heard the Ohio howls? And I'm like, no, I'm from Ohio, but no, I've never heard them. So he played it for me. And, it's the one where dogs are barking and it's howling. And I said, it's kind of close, but it was more guttery. It was more low, really low. And then it crescendoed and exploded like a volcano. And then it was just really a large volume of sound, to the point, the first one was more of a scream. I didn't feel it. But the second one was more of a deep, where I could feel the infrasound and the vibration. And that's when I was like, oh no, I'm out. I'm getting out of here, because this thing's big. You know what I mean? It's, you just get a sense of how big they are. And you can't understand how something like that can be out there walking around or surviving, and nobody runs it. They don't run into it every day. Think about how many people do hike and never see one. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Or how
yeah,
many hunters hunt and they've been hunting for 50 years, longer than me, and have
exactly.
never seen one, heard one, never heard a peep, never smelled anything, nothing. And there can be people out right now as we're talking
Having
who's
an encounter.
facing one right now, or
Yeah,
being ran out of a woods somewhere.
yeah.
You know,
It's
so
crazy, isn't it? It's crazy, and
I I
everything
can't wrap
just
my mind around it.
yeah. You're not on your own. You're not on your own, and I'm sure Kerry could have give you a bit more support because he's experienced it and I haven't. But I get 100% where you're coming from, and I've spoke to enough people over the years to get how frustrating it is, and you want answers.
Yeah.
We all want answers.
But I'm at a forefront where I don't care if I see one. I'm not a person like, okay, I've had two of these things happen. I want to see one now. I got to go back and I got to run into one or see one to know that I already know. I don't need to do that. I have goosebumps from my wrists up to my neck right now, just talking about this subject, because I've experienced it. It's real. It's not made up. Not, it's just, that's all I can tell you is, I didn't pick this. I probably shouldn't have picked that damn stone up, um, because, like I was telling you, you know, I went out to Red Rock Canyon in Nevada, close to Las Vegas, and excuse me, they got a 20-mile loop that you can go in with your car, and you can go off. I think there's 12 or 13 different stations, and you can, you know, hike or whatever, or see where you are. You can go down in the canyon. It's supposed to be wild horses up there running around and donkeys, and I never seen any of that. They have hieroglyphs. I did see hieroglyphs. I have pictures of those. But we went hiking back in an area, and some people came out, and we said, you know, is this a long way back in here? And they're like, no, 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 no. It's not that far at all. You know, you'll be back in and back out. Everything will be good. So we're like, okay, well, and there was like a 25, 30-mile-an-hour wind. I had a cowboy hat on, and I had to pull the rope down around my neck and put it, because I didn't want it to blow off. I didn't want to lose it. And it was cold. It was only about 60 degrees, 55, 60 degrees out in the desert, believe it or not. It was like a cold time there. And we were there, like, I think in August. So it was, for some reason, it was cold out there. And we went back by this rock face, and there were some hieroglyphs on there. And I'm trying to, like, they had a little thing that you could read. I was trying to make it out of what it was. And then somebody was climbing the cliff part of it, and we kept hearing voices. And I said to my girlfriend, did you hear that? Because we couldn't see anybody. You know, you got tall rocks and boulders and mesquite, cactus and stuff all over the place. And I'm like, did you hear that? I hear somebody talking. It sounds like chatter or something. And, you know, I know, you know, now it's a lot farther along. I know a lot more about the subject. And I know, you know, they chatter when they talk, they collect, they do rocks together. And I'm like, you know, I'm hearing some kind of chattering. What the heck's going on? I'm looking around, and, you know, I get this feeling over me, this spidey sense, this Bigfoot sense. I'm like, something isn't right here. Well, I happened to hear a voice clearly, and I happened to look up, and there was a guy that was free climbing. He was free climbing the cliff above us, and somebody had his rope holding on to it, his wife or somebody, but she was talking in a sense of the sound was bouncing around. It sounded muffled. And he was up there, and I'm like, hey, and he was like, what? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I feel a lot better, because there's two other people out here with us. I felt so stupid. I mean, I felt so dumb and stupid. And my girlfriend was just looking at me like, you're an idiot. You know, she's like, you know, it's always Bigfoot. And I'm like, well, when you went through what I went through and seen, you know, pictures, and, you know, you're just, your senses are at a high alert. Yeah. You know what I mean? It automatically goes to that. I don't mean to go to that. It just automatically goes to that, because I'm so now aware of where I am. You know what I mean? Where before this all happened, I would just, you know, try not to step on sticks, be quiet, get to my stand. So
it's sad because, you know, these experiences are distorting the way people are living their lives, in a way, the way they're perceiving things, you know. And like you say, you don't mean to do it, but there must be that subconscious fear, you know.
Yes.
All the time. And
like it's like I'm on guard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like my third eye or whatever that we have. My intuition is on full go, 150%. Like, now I hear something, my head snaps, and you're not supposed to do that when you're deer hunting, folks. You're supposed to move real slow. You're not supposed to snap, move any, you know, quick movements, because if it is a deer, they're going to see it and they're gone. So it's bad if you're hunting, but I just automatically do it now. I want to see, you know, I hear a freight train. I'm looking like, what is this?
So are you eating less meat these days then?
Well, kind of, kind of, you know, I have a little steak now and then. I eat a lot of chicken, but when it's deer season and I harvest deer, I do donate a deer or two, because I get a lot of deer during the season. So I'll donate a couple deer to, like, Hunters for Hunger or Soup Kitchen. in Chicago, because
Yeah.
I'm a Lyft driver in Chicago, and I spend a lot of time over there, and I know where there's a lot of soup kitchens. So I'll take it to the butcher, have them butcher it up, and then somebody from there will come get it, and I'll donate it or whatever. But I usually have a lot of meat in the freezer, so I eat pretty good in the winter. You know what I mean? I make roasts and crock pot it and the whole 9 yards, shredded sandwiches, the whole 9 yards. So I get pretty creative. But going back to my situation out at Red Rock Canyon, I like to explore. Okay, that's just how I am. I was that way when I was a kid. Go play in the woods. Okay, I'm out there for 4 hours exploring, having fun, picking up sticks, looking at bugs, whatever, or playing around in the neighborhood. You always move, you always go farther than what you're supposed to, because you want to explore. Well, I'm going over here, Mom, but really you end up way over here. You know what I mean? So, I just said, hey, I'm going to go off the trail, and I'm going to go out in this mesquite and cactus. Now there's, it's windy and it's cold. I said, I just want to go out here and see if I can, see a tarantula, or I want to see a rattlesnake. Yeah, I want to see it for real in their habitat, instead of going to a zoo and looking at one through a glass case. I want to see one. Not that I'm going to get bit, or I want to get bit, but I want to see some animal life. Okay. So I said, I'm just going to walk north of here I'm just going to go out about 100, 125 yards and walk through. I'm going to zigzag through the cactus and the mesquite and all that, and see if I can see anything. Maybe I'll see a scorpion or something, and that'll be cool. I can take some pictures. So I go off the trail and I head on out. I got my phone in my hand, and I'm walking and I'm looking down, and I'm really taking my time. It took me a little bit, and all of a sudden the wind dies down. From 25 miles an hour, it just goes almost dead still. And maybe, I don't know, 5 miles an hour. It was like nothing. And I come to this open area, and all I see is these rock stackings everywhere. Okay. So before I go on, I've had some friends of mine tell me there's rock stacking clubs. Okay. That they do this for fun. One, I'm not going to do that. That's not fun to me. I mean, I understand everybody's into their own little thing, but, I'm not really into that. But I started to get that sense again. And I know from reading some articles, there was an article about a family in Tennessee, and they had preserves in jars in a shed, and these Sasquatches used to come in at night, tear into the shed, and they would eat the preservatives, or they eat the green beans or whatever. Right. But they would watch. The next day, they would see one or two back over their yard, and they would see them stacking rocks, and they would stack all kinds of rocks like they were going to fall over. Like, you would look at it and go, wow, how does that sit there like that? I can't do that. Who's going to do that? And who's going to do it 100 some yards away from the trail? If I was to do something like that and I was in a club, I would want people to see it. I wouldn't want it to be out in the middle of nowhere. I'd want it to be right where the trail is. See the two rock faces? Yeah. That's where I came in through that. And this is the opening where these are. And if you look at these rocks, I could not do that without having to try and do it 8, 9, 10, 11 times. How do you stack that on top of there? There's big rocks and little rocks, and then big rocks on little rocks. I mean, how do you do that? I can't do that. Yeah. And like I said, you're not going to do that off the trail where nobody can see it. You're going to do it on the trail where people can see it and go, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, there's a lot there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's a gifting station. I don't know if, it's like in thick mesquite and cactus, like it's hard to get through. I barely made it through it. I'm just exploring. I'm not expecting to run into this or see it. I was out trying to see spiders or snakes or something like that, so I'd get some cool pictures, so I'd have something to bring back home. Never believing that I'm walking in and seeing this, and they were all over the place, and they were stacked in such a way that you would think if there was a heavy wind, they would just fall over. And I can't see anybody doing that. Not out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, who's going to come in there and see it? And if you're hoaxing that, how are you going to know somebody else is going to come upon it? What's the odds of that happening? You're out in the middle of nowhere and you're okay, we're going to do all this because I just know somebody that's had a Bigfoot experience is going to walk upon this and they're going to think, oh, it's Bigfoot. Now I'm I don't believe that. If it was right on the trail or right off the trailhead and you're coming upon them and you're seeing them as you're walking the trail, well, that's one thing. Well, yeah, somebody could probably do that because you're right on the trail, but not out in the middle of nowhere.
No. We've got Jack KERRY's out in Indiana as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. He did mention before about you need to find a good support group, and I do actually have a support group, and it's something I need to start back up, and it's called the Encounter Hub, and I set it up either weekly or fortnightly, and it's not live, but we all meet like we did before, before the show. We all meet in a place like that, and it's just for people who've had experiences. It's not for an audience of any sort. And basically, I try and get people together that have had experiences just so they can talk about it. And it's been quite successful, and I've done it for quite a while. I've had some breaks from it, obviously, but I'm going to try and set that up again. And I don't know if you'd be interested in just a place to come and talk and connect with other people that have experienced it. And it might just make you feel a little bit better, just knowing there is definitely people out there that are going through the same thing. And once you start connecting to the same kind of people, it does make it a little bit easier to deal with. Talking is all we have. Communicating. The only way we can get through things is to be able to get it out and to talk about it, and that's really important because people just don't get to do it.
Well, and I don't know of any support groups around my area of Indiana or south of me. I've never seen anything, but I've not researched it either. That's why I've been fortunate enough to do a few of these podcasts with people, like Wes. He saw 3 of them, and he had a very frightening encounter. You know what I mean? I mean, he actually seen them, and KERRY, saw one, and I remember KERRY talking about the whiplash of sound that he got from it and how he felt it. And, it wasn't so much a whiplash of sound, more than it was just a constant beating on my chest of the large volume of sound that was coming out of this. And, it would be great to talk to other people. It beats beating your head against the wall with people that just don't get it, and they don't. And I understand they don't get it because they've not had an experience with anything like that. Or like I said, they're not out in the woods. They go to work, they come home, they go to friend's house. They never go out in the woods. They never camp. They don't ever run into anything like this. So how are they supposed to believe? And, although you're seeing this more on TV and YouTube, and people are opening podcasts to the subject, and there's now field researchers more than ever. I really believe in my heart of hearts that this is eventually going to come out. I think our government's known about it for a very, very long time. Way back to Patty. I'm telling you right now, wherever there's been footprints found, you better believe that there's somebody from the government down there looking as well, or taking pictures or whatever. And I just think that it's been covered up like UFOs, and I think eventually it's going to come out, and I'm going to feel vilified in a way. I'm going to feel like I'm not crazy. What happened to me is what happened to me. The things that have happened, see, I told you so. That's what I'm going to say.
I hope it does. I hope it does come out, you
I
know.
do too, because
So many
like I said
people.
before, it'd be great if they're protected. I don't care about going out and seeing them, or I don't want them to be in a zoo. I just want them to be protected. I don't want people shooting them. But, like Bobo and Wes Germer said, you're going to have to shoot one, and you're going to have to bring part of the body in or the head in or whatever to have people scientifically study it to prove that it's real. I guess that's what it's going to take, because, if people don't believe in it, you can show them Patty all day long. You can show the biolocal motion of how she's walking, the pigeon-toedness, the 1 foot in front of the other,
I
the
think
hematoma on her leg, her thigh quivering when she takes a step, her legs not bending all the way. She's facing forward. The famous turn. She can turn her head, and her body. You can't do that in a suit. That's not a person in a suit. But you can show that to people until you're blue in the face, and they're just not going to get it. They're going to say, I don't believe in it. That's a person in a suit.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
With DNA, there's nothing to test it against.
Right.
I think we need something physical to see.
Right.
Oh, we're testing this, but
Well, the one side of the genochrome is human, but the other side is what's throwing everybody. It's not on the database. So that's what they have nothing to, prove it to. I mean, Melba Ketchum did all of it. She genocoded, came out with a press conference. 5 reporters showed up and they laughed at her. Like, it's a big joke. You know what I mean? And, they don't, they have the blood of it. They have a lot of it. And, they just don't have anything. And, that's where Nephilim plays into it. If you believe in the Bible and you believe in Christ, I do. I believe in Jesus. And, if you read that part where giants walked the earth and fallen angels mated with women, and this was the abomination of it. And we're giant people, a giant race of people. I mean, I really believe, Teddy Roosevelt wrote about him, President Teddy Roosevelt. Davy Crockett or Daniel Boone shot one and killed one. It's in the history books. I think these things have been around for 1,000 years.
And there's stories about them. They're in legends. They've been
Yes.
about them for years and years. So it's not something, that's new, really. That it's always been out there. But
you still have people that don't believe.
It's one of them, isn't it? Don't worry about them.
Yeah, you can't make the horse drink the water.
Yeah, you can't spend time worrying about that.
And I don't. I just move on. They want to hear my thing. I tell them, and you believe whatever you want. You know what I mean? But, like I said before, what happened to me is 100% what happened to me. And I can't explain it. I didn't really see one, but that's their characteristic. They're not going to show you who they are. They're not going to step out into a field. Okay. I've heard of other guys hunting in a tree stand, and they see movement way out in the field, and one comes out of another woods, and they're looking through their scope of the gun, and it looks right at them. I think they have a sick psyche. They can tell when people are there, and that's why they don't, and they're very shy. They're not going to show themselves to you unless they want to show themselves to you, and that's just the way it goes. Yeah. And, maybe in some respects, the one that threw a rock at me, or a couple stones at me, didn't show itself to me because maybe they thought I couldn't handle it. Maybe they felt that. I don't know. Maybe the one over in the other woods didn't come out because it just didn't want to, it wanted me to get out of there. And that's why it yelled at me and, basically tell me, go, get out of here. I don't know. I can't explain it.
I know. And there could be 20 different reasons.
Yes.
And this is the other thing. And so you could send yourself crazy.
I have. I mean, I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. Every time I go out in the woods and I sit up in my tree stand, you think about a lot of things in life. And I think about, why did this happen to me? I'm just out here to hunt and enjoy myself. It's a passion. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. It de-stresses me. It recharges my batteries. I come in, I'm recharged for the next day, and that's my drawing to it. It's not so much about harvesting the animal. I've done that 100 times. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not about putting an arrow in an animal or anything like that or killing something. I just like being out there in the outdoors and breathing fresh air, and just it's therapeutic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't pick it. You know
No.
what I mean? I didn't
No.
ask for it.
Yeah. But I think just one really important thing is to remember is that you're safe. You know, it didn't harm you, and that's one thing
Right.
to take away from it is these incidences. You've got away with it, and you know that's something. That's something positive.
Yeah.
I know it's tiny, but it's actually a big thing. Like you say, people it could have just been taken out, but these chose
Oh,
not to. They
I
they
could have disappeared that day, and would have left a wife and, 3 kids, and I
Mm.
got, I could have been gone and not be doing this show. I mean, it could have went bad. It could have went south. But I had to. The thing that people don't understand is sometimes you have to face the music. Sometimes you have to go back and do something that your heart's telling you, don't go do this. And if you want your sanity and you want to continue to do something that you enjoy and you love doing, uh, sometimes you got to do it. You got to climb the mountain and get to the top of it. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. In fact, right at the beginning of the show, near enough, Lindsay Bay says the thing is, if you love nature, what do? You know,
Lindsay's right. What do you do?
yeah, you
You
can't
know,
let it beat you. And you know, if you're safe and like you say, go in the day, maybe prime yourself up again. I don't know, but
I don't know. I mean, it's May. I got June, July, August, September, and then it's game time. And last year I said, I'm just going to take one morning and go out there. I'm going to walk out in the dark with my little flashlight, and I'm going to go to my spot. But I'm not there yet. I thought I was, but maybe it'll happen this year. I'll have to get in contact with you and shoot a video and send it to you.
yeah,
If I go out there, you know what I mean. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make it this time too.
Dreamland 051 says be cautious out there, but never live in fear.
Oh, I am. I
Yeah,
mean, but the thing is, I want him to understand is the fear is always there. Once that's brought up in you, it does not go away.
no,
Every time I walk out there, I'm by myself and looking around. I walked towards the evening out the backside of the woods through a cornfield over to my neighbor's yard, and that's how I get in and out. And I'm walking in the cornfield, and it's a little windy, and the sky's all dark and gray, and it's getting dark. And I thought I heard movement, in the cornfield. Could have been a deer. I don't know.
yeah,
But it's in the back of my mind. What's that?
yeah,
Is one of these things going to pop up and look over the corn stalks at me? What am I going to do? You know what I mean? I cannot run from it. It's not going to do me any good. You know what I mean?
no,
But the fear is always there. I try and have fun, hunt with my buddies in Ohio, and it's the camaraderie and everything. It's part of it, and I try and have fun and have a good time. But the moment when you got to go out there, you got to go out there, and you got to be brave enough to do it. But the fear is always there. It's not now. It's never going to leave. You know
no,
what I mean? I'm not going to walk out there and not have it in the back of my mind.
no, of
It's
course
That's
not.
stuck with me forever.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. But
Yeah.
look, I really appreciate you coming on tonight and telling us everything and doing your thing, doing your spreading awareness, you know. And people need to hear it. And it also hopefully encourages other people to talk about it, to come forward and to talk about it. Like I say, you don't need to come on live. There is the Encounter Hub. My email address is there just underneath Scott and I, Daniela at hiddenexistence.com. If anybody wants to talk or come on the show, either one, get in touch, send me an email, and we will have a chat. But Scott, if you do, go out, if anything happens, let me know.
Oh, I definitely will.
Let me
You
know.
know,
Yeah,
if I get any more trail cam pictures,
yeah.
anything, I only got that one, and I never got another. You know, just a squirrel or some deer or whatever. But I thought that was really odd and weird. Like that's not a squirrel. And like I said, I've had an experience over there, and I'm in Indiana, people. I'm not out in California or Oregon or these things are all over the place. New York, Texas, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, you know, Canada, out in the Pacific Northwest. They're everywhere. People just think they're out in the West Coast, and they're everywhere. So uh, just be careful out there. And you know, I'm so sorry about KERRY. I wish he was still here. You know, I talked to him. He's a great guy, and I wish he would have been here to be on this show. You know, it saddens me because I had a connection with him. We talked for a long time on the phone, so he was a good guy, and he's going to be missed in this world.
Oh, definitely, definitely. He's missed all the time. Yeah, Raptor, lots of really like, I don't know how you can make that statement, to be honest. There's no Bigfoot in Indiana up north, they're all down south. Well, beg to differ because we've spoke to so many people who've had experiences from all over the place. So I don't think nobody can definitively say they're not in a certain place.
Yeah,
There's just no way,
that's
no way. There's just no way of knowing. You can't possibly
no.
know unless you're there,
That's
going all over the place.
Well, that's what I just said. The statement I just made. People, including myself, when I was a kid, they all think that because they saw Patty or a video of Patty, that they're all out in Oregon and Pacific Northwest. They're in large land-based areas. That guy's referencing. There's a big national park down in the south part of Indiana, and they have, I guess, some people found tracks down there or whatever. But I've also heard a guy on Wes's show that was he was a truck driver up on I-65 and encountered a Sasquatch up north around here, and I-65 is 25 minutes from my house. So,
Right.
you know, they're everywhere. They're not just in one area. They're everywhere. Michigan, I mean, you know, when this happened to me in 2000, I had no way of really researching. If you go to like the BFRO in Michigan, there are people that have seen them all over the state. I mean, they're all over. They're not just in one landmass area or up in the UP. If you go up in the UP, it's huge. It's woods and trees for miles ever. But I'm in the thumb area where I had my encounter, and that's got a lot of trees and woods too. But they're everywhere, man. They're not just in one area. You know, he's one of those people that maybe he doesn't believe. I don't. Maybe he hasn't had an experience. I don't
There's only
know.
one report. There's only one report of Bigfoot in North Indiana. How do you know there's only one report? Do you know where all the reports are? I mean, seriously, because you've only seen one report doesn't mean that is the only report ever.
It you know it
Yeah, and like it was on. Oh, it was on Finding Bigfoot. Why? Well, it's a TV program.
Yeah, finding Bigfoot, like I said earlier, that
Information.
whole thing was a joke. It was entertainment. They were never going to find a Sasquatch. And, Cliff, he's a field researcher. I believe a lot of things. He's got a lot of information about it. I'm not taking anything away from him or Bobo. They're in the field all the time. They're listening to people and reports and going and finding it. But they just made a mockery of it. That's just my viewpoint, but they made a mockery of it. Um, the whole situation like it's a big joke. And when you have this happen to you, it's not a big joke.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
mean,
at all.
I know Raptor likes to ask questions, and I don't think they mean any harm. But you have to open your mind a little bit more and stop just repeating secondhand information as well. And this is the other thing. I guess we all kind of do it, but you can't definitely say there's only one report because I only heard one report. If you don't even speak to that person, you haven't even heard it yourself. It's usually better to say nothing if you don't know. But if you've ever watched BIGFOOT ODYSSEY, me and KERRY have done over 400 interviews. We spoke to people from all over the place, even Australia. These things have been reported all over the world, or some things are. And so for it not to just be hanging out in Michigan, it doesn't really make sense.
And I'd like to just say, one more thing. There are a lot of people out there that have had an experience with one, or they've seen one and they haven't reported it. There's a lot of people that have never said anything. You got to remember, I went 3 years and never said anything to anyone except my soon to be ex wife. And then it took me another 12 years after that before I told my girlfriend. I didn't tell anybody, not even people in my family. They don't even know about this. I have 4 sisters. I told my youngest sister about it, and she about dropped her coffee out of her hand. And she gave me that look, and I said, okay, I'm not crazy. This really happened to me, and I'm not making it up. I'm not crazy. I'm not looking for attention. I'm just being honest with you because it helps me get through it to tell people about it so the people are aware, and that's it. But there's a lot of people that go years and never report anything. So if there's one Indiana one on finding Bigfoot, well, you got to consider the source. And maybe there's a lot of people that have encountered things up here or south of me that have said nothing, and they're sitting at home right now watching this. Maybe they'll come forward and there'll be more than one report in Indiana. I don't know. I can't speak for other people. I'm just telling you what happened to me. No. Believe me or not, it makes no difference to my life.
Exactly.
I'm going to go on with my life.
Yeah. People who are just reading reports and that, we don't know whether they're true or not as well. These things that are on the internet, like the BFRO, I'm not saying they make up stories, but you can't just take something that you've read and put it down as fact and say it's what you know. Well, it might be all you know, but it's not what the truth is.
Right.
And there's too much stuff that you haven't covered to possibly make claims like that. And that's all I'm saying. People just need to be careful what they're saying and how we say these things, because there's obviously more going on that we don't know about. So it's better to keep a little open mind, maybe not too open, as Kerry would say, that your brains fall out. But, to a point.
Oh, that's funny.
Look, guys, it's nearly 2:00 in the morning. Daniel has got to get a little bit of beauty sleep. But Scott, I've really appreciated you coming on, and I hope we do it again, even if it's just to chat Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm always up, and who knows? I mean, who knows this year? I may actually see something, or maybe I can get a photo of one or whatever, because I hunt all over the place, so I'm traveling, and who knows? I can't say. All this has happened to me because of this stupid stone.
Yeah.
So I should have just left it alone, but. And when Native Americans tell you stuff, I listen to people like that because they have hundreds and hundreds of years of heritage. I mean, they know more than I know. I'm just some guy that deer hunts, and I don't know a lot about legend other than some stuff I've researched about it, and about Native Americans, and so I really appreciate you letting me come on here and tell my experiences and what happened to me. And like I said, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink.
Exactly.
And that's just how it is. So some people are going to believe you and some people aren't, and I'm totally cool with it. Yeah, because I know what happened to me.
That's it. You got in this subject, really, you need an organic following. People who just want to follow you, they're going to follow you because they believe in you. Right. It's not a subject you can convince people to make you believe, and there's no point in doing it. I know a lot of people do try that, but there's just no point. And this isn't what it's about here, is forcing information or anything down anyone's throat. It's just a place to share your experience, and that's it. There's no questioning it, and I've no reason to question what you went through. You can genuinely see how it's affected you. And, you know,
Oh yeah.
I always find that sad. People who can't go back into nature, it would really kill me not
Yeah.
to be able to walk through some woods. I'm not even hunting, but to go out and that, you know, listen to the birds and just that peacefulness and everything, you
Yeah.
know, that's something massive in people's lives if they're into that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's a massive loss. So I hope you build it back up again, what you
I'm
do.
working on it.
Or,
It's
you know, doing whatever you need to do.
Yeah, it's a
It's
work in progress for me. So it's day by day. It's not that I'm afraid of the dark. It's I'm afraid to walk in the woods in the dark because of what happened to me.
yeah.
And it was totally like out of left field. Like I was like shocked. Like, and I couldn't understand what it was or what's going on. That's the fear part of it. If I
Mhm.
could have just seen it, then I would have went, oh, well, I got a Bigfoot up here, and then I probably will stay out of here. I'll go hunt somewhere else. I mean, it's still, I think it would have changed my life, but changing your life and having your life turned upside down, and you don't have answers to your questions
Yeah.
because you didn't see it.
Mhm.
So, and I didn't report anything to the BFRO. I didn't know anything about the BFRO at the time, and I didn't report, my experience in 2015 because, I'm not seeking a claim. I don't want my name somewhere. Well, he had this experience in Indiana, so I could go on there and do it, but yeah, I'm not looking for that.
Mhm. All right, Raptor, I get it. It's fine. We're always friends. We'll always stay friends. And that's the main thing is we can disagree, but there's no point in falling out about it at the end of the day. There was one more thing I was going to say, and it's absolutely gone out of my head now. But
That's because it's too late where you
too
are.
late. It's getting
And you're
late now.
tired. You want to go to bed. I get
I
it.
got out of bed. I was up, so I was up at 5 o'clock this morning. It'd been yesterday morning, and
Yeah, me too.
I've been going all day. Yeah,
Yep.
so it's
I'm
probably
up at 5 every morning. So I'll
well,
be up at 5 tomorrow.
we both better hit the sat then soon.
Yeah,
Not to
right.
fall off the sleigh,
It's a
but
little earlier here though.
yeah, lucky you, lucky you.
Yeah.
Um, but guys, once again, thanks, Scott. Guys, everyone
Yep.
who's been up tonight. I know it's been a couple of months since February since I've done a live, so I appreciate you all turning up tonight and seeing what I had to say because I've missed doing lives, but I've been a bit busy. I've had stuff to do. Maybe I'll do a live one night in the evening and I'll tell you all about what I've been up to and stuff like that. But until the next time, everyone, have a great week and happy Mother's Day to everyone out there in America. I know it's a different day. It's a bit earlier here in the UK, but to all the mothers out there, whether they're here or up in heaven, happy Mother's Day to all of you. And guys, I'll see you all soon. Have a good night. Lots of love. Bye-bye.